Hello everybody, welcome to Coding with Tom. Today we will be creating custom views and custom text fields. With the views we will be making them custom drawing using UIBezierPath. We will also be animating the images that we will be presenting, as well as using CoreAnimation to do more interesting animations. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so to start creating these three controls that we're gonna have, two buttons and a text field, let's create a new project for this. This time we will be using storyboard, so we will not be using Swift UI to create our custom views nor animate them. No, we're not going to create a custom view controller since we're just going to display the controls and that's it. So our default view controller is going to work for that. So we're going to have three custom views. The first one, these two are going to be custom UI views, and this one is going to be a custom UI text field. Let's add our views here. I'll give them a colored background just so we can see them here and we can see where they are positioned. Okay, so the only thing I did here was create two UI views and constrain them to be in the center with a fixed width of 100. And then we have our text field here. For this view, we are going to be doing a custom drawing. We're not going to be using an image view, an image, nothing. We're going to draw by code these arrows. So we're going to be using this function that UIView has, which is draw rect. And this is being called each time the view wants to lay out the draw its content. It's going to be called. So we're going to provide the function with which the view can draw these arrows. So first, let's enable our custom view to be initialized from both code, so by frame, or from storyboard. And whatever the case, we're going to be calling a setup method. So nothing weird here. We're just adding a tap gesture because we're going to be acting as a button. So when they tap the view, we're going to be calling a delegate method that just informs our delegate that we were tapped. And we're specifying is animating because the first time that you tap this button, this will start spinning. If the user taps again, it will stop spinning. Also, we can set this variable programmatically if the code also changes, because let's say, for example, this refresh is being used to load something. When it finishes loading, we want this view to stop animating. Now, let's get on to the drawing. Now, for the drawing, I'm going to be using UIBezierPath. What that does is you just kind of vectorize your views, or you're just telling it to what points you're drawing arcs or straight lines. So for this, I created a snippet with some convenience variables that I'm going to use. So here it is. Here we have the padding. We're going to have the edge point we're going to draw. So this is considering the padding so that we don't draw right near the edge of the view. We also have a center point, which is going to be here, the center of those two arrows that we're going to be using for the radius of the arcs. And we have the arrow length, which is just these parts. Now the drawing can be kind of tedious. So for that, I also add another padding, and let me explain what I'm doing here. So again, here what I'm doing is creating first a padding. So that's going to be the difference why this arrow is not making a full semicircle, why it's stopping. So I want there to be a gap between the point of the arrow and the tail of the next arrow. And I'm creating the first path here, and then I'm kind of mirroring that and just creating this. So I'm using this path to create this view here. And then I'm using the lower arrow path to create this one. So let's go step by step what we are doing. So the first thing with UIBezierPath, I'm moving the path to a point. So it's going to start in the left edge point in X and center point Y. So we are starting here. Then what we are going to do is from that point, we are going to be drawing an arc, which is this part here, the center point. So we will draw an arc with the center being the center point here. Then the radius, which is going to be, well, just calculating the distance between the center point and this edge. The start angle being pi. This is measured because here right in the circle, the angle 0 starts here, and then pi goes here. So the start angle is going to be pi, and then the end angle is not exactly going to be 0. We don't want the full semicircle. We're going to have some padding. So I'm subtracting that padding from here. And then we want it to go clockwise. So the arc is going to be drawn here. Then I'm just storing the point that I'm going to do here, because what I'm going to do is from this point, I'm going to draw one line here. Then I want to go back to that point and draw another point from here. So for that, we're gonna be moving the arrow point. So I move here, and then I'm adding a line to the arrow point. So I just move the point here. When you move a UIBezierPath, you're actually not drawing. Then you add the line, and we do the same for the other side. We move to this point, and we add a line, and then that's it. That's it for our upper arrow. Then our lower arrow path, we do something similar. So first, we move to this center point here in the right edge, and then I do the same. I draw an arc with center point. Now the radius is the same length as the other one, and the starting goal here is just reverse from 0 to almost pi minus the arrow padding. Again, it's clockwise because we're going from here to here. And then it's again the same logic to draw the arrow. These values that I got were just from trial and error, nothing fancy there. Then at the end of that, we need to, right now, we wouldn't be drawing anything because our paths are drawn, but we haven't set the stroke or anything. So what do you need to stroke a UIBezierPath? First of all, you need the color, you need a color to state that it's going to be the stroke color. For this one, we're going to be using blue. So UI color that blue, and then we need to call the method setStroke. So for now, when we call stroke on the arrow path, it's going to be stroke. The stroke is going to be drawn with a blue color. Now also we need to specify the line width of the stroke. Add a 4 for the line width. The lower arrow path is also going to have the same line width. Also notice that the edges of the arrows are not square. So for that you need to actually set the line cap, I think it is. Yeah, line cap. So for it to be round. Let's do the same for the lower. And then you just need to stroke the line. So again, UIBezierPath has a method which is stroke. That's it. Let's run and see how it looks. And here we have our arrows. Now, if we tap, nothing is happening. So on our tap gesture, if we are going to animate, so if we are animating, we're going to be adding the animations. I'm going to be creating two animations. One will be one that rotates these arrows, and then another one that expands and shrinks them. For the animations in this view, we're going to be using CAAnimation. And for this one, it's a string, so you actually need to know the value. So the key path that we're going to be adding here is how this rotates. So for that, we're going to be animating transform. Okay. It's very important that you don't have typos here. If you do have, you're not going to be, you won't be animating any key path. Rotation dot C. Now let's add a duration. So let's add a 1 second. Let's add a 1 second rotation. And then we're not going to rotate just once. We're going to be rotating endlessly until the stop animation is called. So for that, we assign a repeat count with the biggest value possible, which is infinity. The only thing we need to do is add these animations to the layer. Now, this is important. A CA basic animation, which is CoreAnimation, is added to the layer of the view, not the view itself. And this key is not like the key path. This key, it can be whatever name you want. Try it with this. And let's also create the stop animating. So to stop something animating, you just remove the animations you added to the layer. Let's try running this. Let's tap. See, we have our rotation animation. And it's never going to stop unless I tap again. Now let's add the scaling. Now for the scaling, I'm also going to use a CoreAnimation, but I want this to have different values at different times. So the scaling, I wanted to go to enlarge this view a little bit and then to shrink it again and constantly be doing that. So for that, we're going to use a CA keyframe animation. Again, this uses a key path. So for this one, I'm going to use transform.scale. You can only specify one axis. So for this one, I'm going to do X, and then I will do exactly the same for Y. So this one will have values. And let's make it 1.5 seconds. Much better. You can see how easy it is to animate this. Again, if I tap here, then the animation stops. So that's it for one of our views. Let's go on to the toggle. Now for this view, we are not going to be drawing this. This is actually an image that the user will provide. So the user will provide both sides of the toggle in views, as well as the initial state. So the user is the one that's going to tell if it is on or off. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. We created an on image, of image, and is on. So these are the three internal variables that we have. The user can provide any of these, the image, the on image, the if image, and is on can be changed programmatically. If it's changed, then we just update the image. And we're also adding a tap gesture. So every time we tap on the, I'm not gonna be creating the UI tap gesture recognize it, but every time that we tap, the only thing that we're doing for now is just toggling the value of it on. For this one, we will also create a delegate. Let's try it without the animation. So right now we have no images because I cannot assign. Let's add the images. Now I don't want to add the images programmatically. Let's add them through the storyboard. So right now, if you see when I tap on the view, here I don't have the views to assign. I can specify which image views I want, which images I want for the on and off, or what's the default value going to be. If you want your properties to appear here in the attributes inspector, you just have to add a tag here to your properties, which are going to be at IB inspectable. So we're going to have that for the image, on image, off image, and is on. Now let's check the storyboard again. Select our button. And here you see now we have our three properties. So now we can change these properties either in code or in storyboard. Let's take advantage of SF symbols. So our on image is going to be a check mark, this one, and our off image, let's add an X. And our default value, let's set it on. Try running this again. Here we go. Right now, you can tap on and off. Now let's add an animation for this one. What we want to do is we're gonna flip this view. So this is gonna be flipping to the next image. And also, well, we're not just flipping it, we're moving it up and down. For this one, we're gonna be using transition, which already has, actually, I don't want this one. Yeah. So I'm gonna be using transition from bottom. So it's gonna create a flip effect. It's gonna flip from the bottom. Let's see how this looks. A little bit slow, we could change it to 1 second. Now, with this, we have the transition. So the first part of the animation, while it flips, it's going to go up and then it's going to go down. So we're going to create two animations for this one. And in the animation, what we're going to do is we're going to deal with the transform of the view. So now we have the animation where we go up, and we're going to be using this delay so that when this one finishes, it starts the other one. So it's also going to have a 0.5 second duration, but it's going to also have a delay. And here the transform, we just make it so that it's identical. Let's try running this. Step here. And there we go. We have our animation. Now we could make it go a little bit faster. Yeah, much better. So now we have a toggle that we can actually use. This will be just like the UI switch, but in a more fun way. Now let's move on to our last control to change, which is going to be this text field. So this text field is going to have the same behavior. We're going to be writing. I'm not going to deal right now with scrolling the view up, so let's just remove this. So what we're going to be doing is writing, and when we write, we're going to make this X appear, which is actually a custom view. And when we tap on it, this is going to skew, which is just going to be using it like a little shaking animation when deleting the text. For our text field, the first thing that we're going to do is add this little X. And here, let's create the button. Okay, so what we're doing here is just supporting both initializers, and then what we're adding is to the right view, which is already a variable that every text field has, which is this one. We're going to be adding a button. We're going to be setting the image with an SF symbol, which is this one, the rounded X field. And then we're adding a function so that every time the button is tapped, we're going to be calling this. This has a mode and it defaults to never. So we're going to be showing it while editing. Let's start typing, and here is our view. If we tap it, it clears the image. Now let's make it so that when we tap this, it kind of shakes and deletes the image. The text, sorry. So here we're gonna be, again, we're gonna be using UI view animations, but we're gonna do it now with UI view keyframe animations. Make keyframes. So what this will do is we'll just be concatenating a bunch of animations, which we will deal with modifying the transform. But the keyframes, they make it manageable because we here just specify a duration for the entire animation, and then the keyframes, we're just adding parts of the animation. So let's animate it for 1 second with 0 delay. And here we have our options for our animations. We're gonna make it linear. And let's animate. Now, after we are done with the animation, on the completion, it is where we are going to be actually deleting the text. So here what we do is again called UIView, and we're going to be add a keyframe. Now, here we have a relative start time because this is just when will it start regarding this duration. So it's going to be 0, this is going to be the first one, and the relative duration. So we're going to be, although it coincides here, this means a quarter of the time. If I play with 1 second, it is 0.25 seconds. If we would be doing this, it would be 0.5 seconds. And the animation, so our animation, we will be dealing with the transform. So most of these values are going to be the same as the transform. We are not changing any of this, except for C. With C, it's what we use to deal with the skew. So let me show you with one of this. Let's try animating it. Now we'll see how it skews to one side and it's not returning to its original form. So in the completion, we also need to set the transform to the identity. Okay. And now let's add our other frames. Let's try running it like this. And there we have it. You see, we have that kind of a jiggle. And when it stops, it removes the text. Now, these are custom views. This can be rendered anywhere. If we were to run this on an iPad, we will get the same effects. There's nothing different, nothing dependent on platforms. And that was it for today's lesson. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I love drawing custom views with UIBezierPath. It makes it very easy for the view to be adapted to any size. You won't have even any of the issues you have with images that look pixelated when resizing. We'll be dealing with much more complex animations on future lessons. But that's it for now. Join me on the next lesson to do the same animations on Swift UI with shapes. Bye.